Hello, everyone. Mike Berg with the St. Paul's Mailbag Media Ministry Team, and I'm here with Bob Poole. And like we've done for the past 2 weeks, here in the third week, we're going to actually tackle question 2 this time that was presented by the Stewardship Committee and sent out to the congregation. And that question was, how do you show your love for Jesus to others? Which is really kind of one way a simple question, and another way a very complex question. Because there's just that kind of can cover a whole multitude of things.
It can indeed. Yes.
So let's start by talking about, we got a couple responses here. Let's start talking about them. The first one that came in was a person who, it's really long, so I'm gonna shorten this one up. Person was at church, 11 o'clock service, and came in to the narthex, and the ushers were back there, and you've done ushering since you got here. I kind of filled in occasionally, but it was a lady that was obviously without a home, had all her stuff gathered up together, and she was very upset and distraught, according to this, and both ushers went up and talked to the lady and found out that the night before her sleeping bag had been stolen, which a sleeping bag is such a vital importance for somebody who's homeless and living on the streets. And so I think from what I understand from this letter, both the ushers kind of gave her a little bit of money, but then somebody else heard about it that was in the narthex at that time. And that person skipped out of church and ran up to one of the stores on a Sunday and bought a sleeping bag and brought it back and put it with her stuff, unbeknownst to her, I believe, from my understanding of this. And when she left church, her prayer had been answered because there was her sleeping bag.
Right.
That's what I get from reading it. That's the simplifying the story here. Yep. But you've been ushering not only here at St. Paul's, but I'm sure at your other churches. How many times? You talk about Norfolk, which we both have a connection to Norfolk. My daughter went to college there, and you were a member of First Lutheran, and that's downtown Norfolk. I remember that. Right. How many times have you seen something like
I have never seen anything quite like that dramatic and that quick a response. The response was just gratifying to anyone watching, I'm sure to her as well. But what it showed me was that people reach out when there's a need at this church. Without prompting, without being asked, people just respond. And I think that's a very good thing. And it also shows for me, it shows leverage, how a gift multiplies itself. I also noticed that morning a lady went up and just put her hand on her shoulder and just spoke with her very softly. I'm sure that had an impact as well, in addition to the monetary gift and the sleeping bag. But those are the things that stewardship brings stewardship home. You think about it.
And sometimes it's just knowing there's a need.
Yes.
And I think this is an instance of that. The people involved in this, and there's the one person that wrote this, but there's several players in this, because they use ushers as in the multiple more than one. I don't know who else knew about this, but everybody saw a need and saw a different way to help this lady. And what it resonated with me is there's plenty of people willing to help. It's a matter of being aware of that need. That was one of the things that stuck out to me.
Yeah, and that's true. I mean, being observant, sometimes just listening to people, understanding their needs is a critical part of stewardship. Same thing with the church, understanding what the church's needs are. We have many, but sometimes it's just us being aware more of how we can be a part of addressing those needs.
Well, let's talk, since you brought it up, let's talk for a second about the needs of this particular church and the uniqueness of the needs here. Because we're in a downtown area, because we're in a building that's 150 plus years old, we have all these ministries that we're trying to support. So you talk a little bit more about the needs
Well, I think the needs are obvious if you really pay attention, again, being observant. But I think the real need is us coming together as a people within the congregation. First of all, stewardship to me means helping each other and listening to each other and being a part of helping others advance in their lives and address their needs. Then, of course, we look at the community. We are downtown, and we're in the middle of a lot of sometimes turmoil. Sometimes there are hungry people, homeless people all around us, and you can't escape that. But the question becomes, how do we address that? How do we make something happen through our ministry? And I think we're doing that very well through the feedings, through the Mother Hubbard's cupboard, through the overnight stays we offer to people, those kind of things, the clothing closet. And then we talk about our building. Well, yes, we got to do that in a place. And we have a very nice place, but it always needs a lot of work. 150 years old, things going to happen. So
right.
We have to address those needs as well.
And I think it's something that I know in my stints as president of my old church, and I think about now, is we have all the ministry programs, the feeding, but just supporting the basic infrastructure. You know, keeping money in the general fund to pay
right.
pay the light bill, pay the water bill, upkeep a 150-year-old church, pay for the outstanding staff that we have, and those are all parts of keeping this footprint downtown, so that we are the beacon of some form of hope and blessing, not just hope, but hope and blessing here in Wilmington.
And that kind of becomes, I believe, our signature, who we are as a church and as a congregation. We look at what's happening church-wide, but we also have to look at what's happening right here in Wilmington. And I think we are become a symbol of caring. We become a symbol of reaching out to others. And we back that up with our support. And you mentioned staff. We can't go without saying that staff, who makes all this work? Who keeps the thing going? Who reaches out to us and who reaches out to the community? Somebody has to coordinate all of that. And without a staff, without things you do, with the technology team, we can do a lot of things that we are doing this year.
Yes, I mean there's no point in spending, but agreeing with everything you just said, because those things are required. Let's touch on this last question real quick. I just want to, again, the question that was given to the congregation was, how do you show your love for Jesus to others? And this one's a little bit shorter, so I'm just going to read this whole thing. When interacting with clerks in stores, I try to thank them using their name. I try to give gently used items to nonprofit stores to support the less fortunate. When opportunities arise through the church, I try to give an in-kind or monetary gift. When friends might be having a challenging time, I try to share some surprise to make them smile, either through the spoken word, a note, or a small gift. Whoever wrote this, pretty much my first thought was, I think they thought of everything. That was, pretty holistic approach in that.
It is very holistic and very true. And I think that's part of our Christian Lutheran DNA, if you will. We have that sentiment of being observant again, seeing what the needs are, and reaching out in ways that we can, and hopefully make a difference in someone's life.
And again, sometimes it's giving, and we talked about this before, sometimes it's giving of your time, sometimes it's giving of your talents, but it's also sometimes, giving monetarily to kind of support the infrastructure that we have here of all the ministries.
Yeah.
So that covers the two questions, and we got some other things we talked about on the side that we want to come back and do in the future.
Sure.
But I think I'm going to get a couple more of your stewardship co-members to join me and to answer some of the other questions as we go forward. And I'll look forward to working with you again on some other stuff in the coming year.
It'd be my pleasure. I think we have a great team going here, so just keep it going.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
All right. Thank you.